Hey, what's up, guys? It's N Square Sports back with another video. Today we're doing the NFC West. We're breaking down the division. So let's start with the LA Rams. They went 13-3 last year and lost in the Super Bowl. So I have their floor at 8-8 this year, and their ceiling at 13-3. I think they're gonna be have another year where they possibly could go to the Super Bowl. I think they're gonna probably battle it out with a team like the Eagles. So what do you have on the Rams?
The Rams have the exact same floor and ceiling as 8-8 and 13-3. I will say this though, I am lower and I don't really believe in the 13-3, and here's why. I believe that I don't know the exact amount of years, but it's over 10 years. I think it's about 13 to 14. A team that was in the first or second seed in the playoffs the previous year did not make the playoffs. And I believe this trend will continue, and I believe it's the Rams that are going to do this. They're going to continue this trend. And here's why. It's because I believe that the division is better, and I believe the NFC as a whole has a lot of talent. The Rams got a tough division. I mean, we were going through all the NFC in the other videos. Check those out. We mentioned the Rams in probably every single video because it's a big game they got to play.
Yeah.
Every week they're going to have to battle it out, and they're going to have to win a lot of these toss-up games that they're going to have. I believe 9-7's I'm also really high in the Niners and Seattle, so that does twist my view a little bit on the Rams. I think their defense is lackluster. I get Aaron Donald's on it. But I believe people start figuring out this offense and figuring out how to beat it. I believe this team is beatable. We saw a format for them being able to be beaten. Gurley's going to be a little injured and dinged up. People are concerned about that. So players to watch, do you have anything that you want to mention?
Yeah, I just think the health of Todd Gurley is going to be interesting. It feels like now when we talk about the best running backs in the NFL, we don't really mention Todd Gurley first anymore. Like last year we did. Like he was an MVP candidate last year, or at least for part of the year he was. And now we don't even really mention him in the top 5 anymore. We can name 5 better ones. Probably most people do, but so I think his health is big, and because without Todd Gurley being completely healthy, they have a pretty good wide receiver core, but Todd Gurley makes a lot of that offense, honestly. So I think that's one case you could make for them not being as high up this year.
Yeah, and someone to watch is Henderson. He's the backup they drafted this year for Gurley. Apparently he's been doing well in training camp. It's training camp, so got to take a little bit of a grain of salt. But then, just watch him to see if he can replace Gurley's production. McVay is smart enough. He'll make sure to use Henderson's strengths. Watch that defense, because I'm not a believer in that defense at all, and I think it's going to be exposed. And there's no way that this team is putting up 35 points per game. That offense was historic last year, and it's bound to recede. Just some games to watch. All of their division games are critical. And the Saints, week 2, we mentioned in the other video, this is a massive game. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be passionate. I mean, you're going to see some hard hits. Yeah. I mean, would you agree with those?
Yeah, totally agree. I think week 2, watch that game week 2 with the Saints and Rams. So let's now move on let's just go to the Seattle Seahawks next. They went 10-6 last year. I have their floor at 6-10, and they're ceiling at 9-7. I don't think they'll be as good as they were last year, but I still think they'll be relatively good. I probably would put them a little closer to the 9-7 than 6-10. But they have a tough division, or a tough schedule, rather. But so what do you have on them?
So the Seattle Seahawks, I can make a case for 6-10, but I don't believe that. I think their ceiling is more. Honestly, is 11-5, and I believe they're going to hit close to that ceiling, that 10-6 and 11-5 range. I bet on this team to win the division. I'll tell you why. This team, they traded away Frank Clark to the Chiefs, and they got a lot from him, to be honest. This team really has the exact same pieces as they did last year. They got Ziggy Ansah, who's probably can replace Frank Clark's work. He's bound to get injured, I get that, but pretty much this team is the exact same as it was last year, and they did the exact same. They had an 11-5, or what was the record? They had a 10-6 record with this, and they got DK Metcalf. Players to watch. This offense is rolling. Tyler Lockett is He's a great wide receiver.
Yeah.
I believe Russell Wilson is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Chris Carson's underrated running back. Rashad Penny, who they drafted last year, is going to develop. This offense is honestly potent, and I love this team this year. I think they're going to develop. I think it's going to take one more step up. Russell Wilson got paid. He's happy. I think this team is going to be doing the exact same thing as it did last year, and I think they're going to upset a lot of teams. And it just all depends on their defense.
That's true. I think I had mentioned in a previous video that I thought their offensive line would hold them back, and I still think they will a little bit. I don't think it's as bad as I said previously. I think they've gotten a lot better offensive line wise, but I think the offensive line might hold them back just a little bit. But yeah, I agree with you on the DK Metcalf point. He's a physical beast. Like, he really is. So he's a player to watch for sure. If he can be a number 2 to Tyler Lockett, I think this offense will be pretty potent. So I think they could test the Rams in the division for sure.
Just some games you just want to watch is the division games, of course, and because this division is going to be so close, it's going to be a fight the last couple of weeks. Just watch all those games. They're fun. The Rams and Seahawks last year was really, both were close.
Yeah.
Great fights. And then at the Panthers week 15, probably going to be fighting for a team that the Panthers are going to be fighting for a wild card spot is what I project. You can hear about that in the other videos, but this team's going to be fighting a desperate team, and they're going to be fighting for probably their division. So that's going to be an interesting game.
Yeah, I think that since I'm higher on the Panthers, I think both of those teams will be fighting for their division in that game. I think that is a good point. I think that's a big game to watch. So let's move on now to the 49ers. So last year, 49ers went 4-12 because Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. I think they would have been a little better if he wouldn't have gotten hurt. I still have their 4-12, and they're ceiling at 7-9. Probably a little lower than you are on them. But I think it's just mainly because Jimmy Garoppolo, we've seen him for 6 games he's started or something like that. So we haven't seen a ton of action from him. So I just don't know everything he can do yet. And I think George Kittle is a monster, and he'll be really good. I just don't know with the Seahawks and Rams how they're going to fare with them.
Yeah, the 49ers are an interesting team.
They are.
That defense is really up in the air, and it's going to be questioned a lot, and it's going to be tested a lot with the Seattle Seahawks with that offense and the Rams in there. So it's going to, even the Cardinals are going to have an offense, which I'll talk about them later. So my floor for the Niners are 6-10, and the ceiling is 11-5. So some players to watch is Jimmy G. Recently, as of recording this video, yesterday came out that Jimmy G threw 5 straight interceptions to his defense. So whatever you want to believe about that, that's that. Jimmy G played lackluster in his season, his 3 games. Last year, he got better, but I really want to see him. We haven't seen much of him. The dude got signed 2 seasons ago, and we are still wondering, what's this team all about? They got offensive weapons. I like Deebo Samuel. George Kittle, he's a stud. He's a beast. They got Jerick McKinnon, and they got one of Kyle Shanahan's favorite running backs is Tevin Coleman. Can we see this team produce? Maybe. I'm more on the 8-8 side, but I believe this team could beat any in the NFL.
Yeah, I said in the NFC South video we made that they're a team that nobody really wants to face, but they're a team that everybody can beat. I think I would say around 6-10, 7-9 would be what I think they're going to be this year. But they're just a weird team because they could have an off game and be terrible, or just play really well. And so they're a hard team to try to make a floor and a ceiling for, in my opinion. Also, I think Jimmy G will never, ever again try to go through any defender. He'll step out of bounds because that cost him the season last year. Okay, so let's go on to the Arizona Cardinals. They went 3-13 last year. I have them. They're 2-14, and they're ceiling at 5-11. The reason their ceiling is even at 5-11 is because of Kyler Murray. I think realistically they'll probably go around 3-13 and maybe 4-12 this year, because I think Kyler Murray is good enough probably to win 1 or 2 more games than they did last year.
This is gonna be good here. I believe the floor is 12 and 14, or 2 and 14, not 12 and 14, 2 and 14. I believe that's completely realistic, but I believe this team is one of the most underrated teams in the NFL, and I have their ceiling as 8 and 8.
Oh, man.
And I honestly believe this team is going to go around 7 and 9.
Wow.
And it's because of Kyler Murray. I am slowly increasingly loving more and more Kyler Murray. Cliff Kingsbury, I am not a fan of. I did not like when they hired him. But he does fit Kyler Murray and what he's used to. Kyler's talented. He can throw that ball. He has a nice arm. Yeah. He's got wheels. The dude's talented. I believe this team's got talent. They got Christian Kirk. They went offensive heavy. This defense also improved. You got Terrell Suggs, Budda Baker. Pat Pete comes back in week 7. This team's got talent, and I believe people are sleeping on them because they have a rookie quarterback. Oh yeah, they got David Johnson too, who is one of the best running backs a couple years ago, and he's just been injured. I see a lot of potential in this team. I mean, what do you think?
I can't do it right now with Kyler Murray just because he's just so small. Like, he is one of the most talented athletes I've probably ever seen, because he was a first round MLB pick in a draft a couple years ago, and the number 1 pick in the NFL. Like, how can you be the first round pick in 2 different sports? Like, that's talent. Like, he's so talented. But I think in baseball you don't have to be as like over 6 foot. You can be under 6 foot and still be pretty good. In the NFL, it's hard when you're 5'10" as a quarterback. It's really hard when you have 6'6" defensive end tackles coming at you. It's really tough. And with an offensive line that is not great, I mean, it's gonna be tough for him to be able. He's so athletic that I think it'll work sometimes, but you just can't escape guys that are almost a foot taller than you coming at you. It's just, so that's what I have to say for him. I love him as a talent, but him being so small, I just don't see it yet.
You're hesitant.
Yeah, I'm very hesitant towards them.
This team, I don't believe is going to be fighting for the division, but if they want a chance, what I want from this team is I want to see some upsets. I want to see this team challenge the Rams, and I believe they can beat the Rams. I want to see this team show up against big teams and show up against little teams. I want to see them compete, and then I'll be content. I believe that's a success for this season, because if you're a realistic fan, you're not saying this team's going to the Super Bowl. Yeah. No one's saying that, and you're right to say that. If you're saying they're going to the Super Bowl, you're delusional. If this team can compete, all they need is a couple defensive stars that they can sign next year, they can draft next year, and that's a success for them.
Yeah, I think this year it's kind of the Kyler Murray show. You're going to be watching him and how he develops, and I think if he can develop well and put up good numbers, and even if he could win like 6 or 7 games, that would be a huge success, I think, for them, and they would be very happy with where they are, because they're kind of a rebuilding team almost, it feels like, just because they have talent, but they're still rebuilding a little bit. So so that's what I have on the Cardinals, and that concludes the NFC. We just finished the NFC West in this video, so we're done breaking down the divisions and the entire NFL. It's a lot of work, but hopefully y'all guys liked it. So look out for some more NFL videos, NBA videos. Tell us what you want us to do in the comments section, and we'll see you guys next time.